Close your eyes and drift with me into the silence of the universe. Imagine a time before Earth, before the stars, before even light itself. A moment when the cosmos was nothing but a whisper of potential. Out of that silence, the first atoms emerged, small and invisible, yet destined to build everything we know. This is their story, the silent life of atoms. Stay with me until the very end, because the tale of atoms is also the tale of you. In the beginning, there was no earth, no sun, no galaxies, no mountains, no oceans. There was no time, no space, no sound, only an infinitesimal point containing all that would ever exist. Then, suddenly, that point expanded. It did not explode into a void, it created the void, unfolding space and time together in a silent, endless motion. This was the Big Bang, the moment when existence began. The earliest universe was a roiling sea of energy, far hotter than any star could ever burn. There were no atoms, for atoms could not survive in such fire. Instead, there were fundamental particles, quarks and gluons, tiny, restless, and weaving the first building blocks of matter. In that primordial dance, protons and neutrons began to form, bound by the strong nuclear force, and electrons swirled around in an invisible ballet, waiting for the moment they could settle into place. Time moved, space stretched, and gradually the universe cooled. With this cooling, the first neutral atoms could emerge. Around 380,000 years after the Big Bang, hydrogen and helium atoms formed, the simplest and most abundant of all elements. Hydrogen, with a single proton and electron, was modest, unassuming. Helium, slightly heavier, carried 2 protons, 2 neutrons, and 2 electrons, quietly floating in the expanding darkness. These atoms were tiny, nearly impossible to imagine, yet they were the foundation of everything that would follow. Alone, a hydrogen atom might seem insignificant, but together, in unimaginable numbers, they formed clouds, the seeds of galaxies, the building blocks of stars. Each atom was a tiny storyteller, carrying with it the history of creation and the potential for everything to come. For millions of years the universe remained quiet. No planets spun in the darkness, no oceans lapped at shores, no life stirred, only hydrogen and helium, floating in an endless expanse, gathering slowly under the gentle pull of gravity. Invisible, patient, unstoppable, gravity guided these atoms into the first dense regions of matter where their collective weight would spark something new. In these regions, the first stars began to ignite. These stars were simple in design, yet miraculous in function. Within their cores, hydrogen atoms fused into helium, releasing energy as light. The universe, once silent and dark, now began to glow. These stars were the first forges of heavier elements, creating carbon, oxygen, and neon from the simplest of beginnings. They were quiet, powerful, patient, crafting the raw materials for planets, oceans, and eventually life. Even in their silence, these early stars were storytellers. Every fusion reaction, every photon emitted was a line in the vast narrative of the cosmos. The hydrogen in these stars had traveled across the void since the Big Bang, and now it was part of something greater, participating in processes that would echo for billions of years. Helium atoms formed in the first moments of the universe began to combine, to transform, to contribute to structures that would shape galaxies. And while these cosmic forges worked, the universe remained calm and quiet to all but the most sensitive observers. No sound traveled through space, no wind swept across the empty void. Yet in this silence, the earliest atoms performed a choreography that would eventually give rise to all that exists. Every collision, every bond, every transformation was a small, imperceptible movement in an endless, patient dance. Imagine a single hydrogen atom drifting through this vast, dark universe. It might float for billions of years, untouched, unseen, unchanged, yet it carries within it the history of the cosmos. It is the product of the Big Bang, a survivor of the earliest moments of creation, and a participant in processes that will eventually shape stars, planets, and life. These atoms, silent and eternal, are the threads connecting everything across space and time. Gradually, clouds of hydrogen and helium grew denser. Gravity continued its patient work, pulling atoms together into ever larger structures. Some clouds became the first galaxies, while others formed clusters and filaments stretching across the universe. Within these clouds, regions of extreme density sparked the birth of new stars. These stars glimmered quietly, yet they were monumental, engines of creation, forging heavier atoms from the simplest elements. These atomic transformations were slow, imperceptible in human terms, yet monumental in cosmic terms. Hydrogen fused into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, and the cycle continued, building the periodic table one reaction at a time. Every new atom created in these cores carried a story, the story of its formation, the conditions of its creation, the immense pressures and temperatures that made it possible. Atoms were becoming storytellers without awareness, chroniclers of a universe in motion.
Even outside the cores of stars, atoms wandered through space, interacting and recombining in quiet ways. Hydrogen gas drifted in clouds, occasionally colliding with other atoms, sometimes forming the first molecules. Helium, stable and inert, floated silently, a witness to the slow evolution of matter. Together, these atoms laid the groundwork for the universe's future complexity. In this early universe, simplicity reigned, yet it carried the seeds of everything to come. Hydrogen and helium, in their modesty, contained the potential for every star, every planet, every molecule of life. They were patient, enduring, and universal. Every atom was a testament to the slow, deliberate unfolding of creation, a reminder that even the smallest elements can give rise to the greatest structures. As the first stars blazed, atoms were continually rearranging, forming ever more intricate combinations. The universe's silence was deceptive. Beneath it, a symphony of motion, transformation, and potential was underway. Atoms fused, split, and recombined in processes invisible to the naked eye, yet essential to the creation of the cosmos. Each particle contributed to a larger narrative, a story without words, but rich with meaning. Even in these earliest moments, one can sense the quiet poetry of atoms. Hydrogen, the simplest element, drifted through space yet carried the potential for oceans, for plants, for consciousness. Helium, stable and inert, served as a building block for heavier elements. Together, these atoms whispered the first lines of a story that would continue for billions of years, eventually arriving on planets, forming water, and giving rise to life. Consider the cosmic patience of these atoms. For billions of years they traveled through space, undisturbed, participating silently in processes far beyond comprehension. They formed clouds, then stars, and then more complex elements. They have witnessed the birth of galaxies, the formation of planets, and the emergence of life. And through it all, they remained unchanged at their core, carrying within them the memory of creation itself. These atoms, humble and silent, are the first storytellers of the cosmos. They record, in their very existence, the history of the universe. Each hydrogen atom is a witness to the Big Bang. Each helium atom has experienced the forging within stars. Though they do not speak, they convey a narrative through their interactions, their bonds, and their transformations. They are a library of cosmic history, written not in words, but in matter itself. Even now, as you breathe and move through your day, the atoms around you are silent participants in a story that began billions of years ago. The air you inhale, the water you drink, the earth beneath your feet, all contain atoms that have journeyed through the universe, waiting patiently for the right moment to contribute to life, to consciousness, to your very being. The first stars, though simple, set the stage for all that was to come. They created the first carbon, oxygen, and neon atoms, essential ingredients for complexity. Yet they did so quietly, without fanfare, in the endless calm of cosmic time. These atoms, newly formed, drifted into space, joining clouds and gathering in preparation for the next generation of stars. The universe at this stage was a delicate balance of silence and creation. Hydrogen and helium provided the raw material. Gravity orchestrated movement on scales incomprehensible to humans. And within this quiet, the first atoms began to tell their story, a story of patience, persistence, and quiet power that would eventually culminate in planets, oceans, and life. Even as galaxies formed and stars ignited, the majority of atoms remained in quiet suspension, drifting through space, imperceptible but essential. They were the canvas upon which the universe would paint its masterpieces, the foundation of every planet, every ocean, every living being to come. And so, by the time the first stars began their work, atoms had already completed their first chapters. They had survived the Big Bang, formed their basic structures, and gathered in clouds ready to ignite creation on a larger scale. They had proven their resilience, their patience, and their ability to carry the narrative of the cosmos silently through time. The universe, vast and emptied to the human eye, was in fact alive with these atomic storytellers. Each one, in its quiet way, contributed to the unfolding drama of creation, setting the stage for the emergence of worlds, oceans, and life. They were small, unseen, and silent, yet they carried the weight of all possibility.
The first stars, though brilliant and monumental, did not live forever. Their existence, though measured in millions or billions of years, was finite, a gentle reminder of the impermanence that underlies even the most enduring structures in the cosmos. Within their cores, hydrogen and helium fuse steadily, forging heavier atoms, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and beyond. These atoms, essential for the complexity of matter and life, were nurtured in the furnace of the stars, gradually accumulating until the day came for their release. When a massive star reaches the end of its life, the process of fusion can no longer sustain the pressure needed to resist gravity. The core collapses, and the star explodes in a supernova, a violent, brilliant outburst that scatters the atoms it forged across space. These atoms, once locked in stellar hearts, are hurled into the surrounding void, mingling with the gas and dust of the galaxy. In this way, the universe recycles its matter, sending these ancient particles on new journeys, destined to become part of planets, moons, and eventually living beings. Consider the carbon in your body, the oxygen you breathe, the nitrogen that flows through your cells. These are not newly created atoms. They are stardust, born in stars that shone and died long before the Earth existed. Every atom carries a story of creation, of destruction, of transformation. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every thought is built upon these ancient materials, quietly recycled and recombined over eons. Stars are patient creators. They spend millions of years fusing light atoms into heavier ones, shaping the elements that will one day construct planets and life. And when they die, they scatter these creations into space, ensuring that the universe continues to build upon itself. The atoms are indifferent to the grandeur of the event. They do not care for the explosion or the light it produces. They simply move, as they always have, guided by forces both subtle and immense, combining and recombining in an endless, silent dance. Even the smallest atoms participate in this cosmic cycle. A single carbon atom might form in a distant star, be expelled into space, drift for millions of years, and eventually find itself incorporated into a planet. There, it may become part of the ocean, absorbed by a plant, transformed into sugar molecules, and ultimately consumed by an animal. Over billions of years, these atoms cycle through countless forms, silent witnesses to the unfolding story of the universe. We are, in every sense, made of stardust. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the carbon skeletons of our DNA, all were once part of stars that lived and died before the Earth even formed. This realization brings a quiet awe, a sense of connection to the cosmos that transcends space and time. We are the inheritors of stellar histories, participants in the ongoing narrative of matter itself. Atoms do not perish, they only transform. Hydrogen from the first minutes of the universe still exists, now bound in water molecules, in the air we breathe, in stars and planets. Carbon formed in stellar cores continues to circulate through living organisms, the atmosphere, the soil, and the oceans. Oxygen atoms forged billions of years ago find their way into our lungs and cells, powering life through respiration. In this way, atoms are eternal and ever-changing, a silent record of cosmic processes that unfold over incomprehensible timescales. The journey of atoms is not chaotic. It follows natural laws, subtle forces, and patterns that create harmony from apparent randomness. Gravity guides their movement across the cosmos. Electromagnetic forces shape their interactions, and the principles of chemistry dictate how they combine and separate. This invisible architecture allows the universe to construct complex systems from simple building blocks, culminating in the astonishing diversity of matter we observe today. Imagine the nitrogen atoms in the air you breathe. They may have been part of a supernova, expelled into space, captured by a forming planet, incorporated into the earliest life forms, and ultimately cycled through countless organisms over billions of years. Now they are part of you, sustaining your cells, participating in the silent, patient work of life. Each breath reconnects you to a lineage that spans the universe itself. Carbon, too, is a master of transformation. Born in stars, it travels across space, sometimes resting in rocks, sometimes in water, sometimes in living tissue. It forms the backbone of organic molecules, enabling the chemistry of life. Proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and DNA all rely on carbon's ability to form stable yet versatile bonds. Through carbon, the universe expresses complexity, structure, and adaptability, all built from the silent work of atoms. Oxygen also follows this path. Created in the cores of stars, dispersed through supernova, and incorporated into water and organic molecules, it participates in the cycles that sustain life. Every inhale brings oxygen into our bodies, continuing the story that began billions of years ago, linking us to stars, oceans, and the earliest living organisms. Even iron, the element that gives blood its color, was once forged in stellar furnaces. Iron atoms are some of the oldest matter in our bodies, remnants of ancient stars that perished long before the Earth even formed. These atoms traveled through space, joined the forming Earth, and ultimately became part of our cells, our muscles, and our blood. They are silent witnesses to cosmic history, connecting us directly to the universe's earliest epochs. Through this continuous recycling, atoms demonstrate both endurance and transformation. They persist across time, yet they never remain static. They change form, bond with other atoms, and participate in ever more complex structures. In this way, they embody a balance between permanence and evolution, a silent principle underlying the universe itself. Our connection to atoms is intimate. Every function of our bodies, every moment of awareness, every heartbeat relies on the activity of atoms organized in precise ways. Calcium ions in our cells trigger reactions that allow muscles to contract. Hydrogen and oxygen form water molecules that sustain life. Carbon and nitrogen shape the molecules that encode our genetic instructions. All of this happens silently, orchestrated by the patient rules that govern atomic interactions.
Even beyond life, atoms continue their journey. Water molecules cycle endlessly through oceans, rivers, clouds, and precipitation. Rocks weather and erode, releasing minerals that are incorporated into soil. Elements like silicon, aluminum, and magnesium move slowly through the crust, participating in geological cycles that span millions of years. Through all these processes, atoms act as both participants and witnesses, connecting the present to the deep past. As you breathe, atoms flow through your body, moving with you through space and time. They have been part of stars, planets, oceans, and living beings. Each breath reconnects you to the silent life of the cosmos, reminding you that your existence is a temporary arrangement of eternal matter. You are a vessel through which atoms continue their journey, a living testament to the enduring cycles of creation and transformation. The universe itself is a vast network of these journeys. Stars are born, live, and die, scattering atoms across space. Planets form, accumulate matter, and sometimes harbor life. Atoms cycle through these systems endlessly, creating an invisible web that connects all things. This web is the narrative of matter, written in silent interactions, enduring transformations, and infinite patience. And as life emerged on Earth, these atoms participated in an even more intricate story. They became part of the first organic molecules, combined into the earliest cells, and contributed to the evolution of life over billions of years. Each atom carries with it a lineage, a history of countless recombinations, migrations, and transformations, linking all living beings together. Every breath we take is a reminder of this ancient journey. The oxygen in the air, the hydrogen in the water, the carbon in our bodies, all are participants in the story that began long before humans existed. They have traveled across the cosmos, experienced the life and death of stars, and now reside within us, continuing their journey silently. In this way, atoms are both eternal and ever-changing. They are timeless travelers, cycling through matter and life, yet continually creating new forms, structures, and possibilities. They embody the paradox of permanence and transformation, the silent rhythm that underlies the universe. When you close your eyes and imagine the atoms in your body, consider the journeys they have undertaken. They have witnessed cosmic dawns, stellar explosions, the formation of planets, and the emergence of life. They have been part of countless organisms, moving through the cycles of creation and destruction. And now, they exist within you, contributing to your consciousness, your awareness, and your experience of the universe. The atoms that compose your body have no awareness, yet they participate in the creation of awareness itself. Through their silent interactions, they form the molecules that enable life, the cells that sustain it, and the brain that allows reflection. In this way, the silent life of atoms becomes intertwined with the conscious experience,
bridging the microscopic and the cosmic, the eternal and the fleeting. Even as we live, move, and breathe, these atoms continue their journey. They will one day leave us, becoming part of other systems, other organisms, other planets. They will continue to travel, recombine, and transform, carrying the story of the universe forward. In this way, the cycle of atoms is unbroken, a continuous thread linking past, present, and future. And so as you rest and reflect, consider the atoms that inhabit you. They are ancient, resilient, and endlessly patient. They are the silent witnesses to cosmic history, the quiet storytellers of the universe, and the very foundation of your being. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought is built upon their timeless journey. Through the atoms within us, the universe becomes conscious of itself. Through their cycles and transformations, the cosmos expresses creativity, endurance, and connection. We are, in a sense, the universe made aware of its own history, a fleeting yet miraculous arrangement of stardust traveling through time. The quiet life of atoms reminds us that even in silence there is beauty, persistence, and story. The atoms that once dwelt in distant stars, scattered across space by supernovae, now flow through rivers, oceans, forests, and living beings. They continue their journey, participating in the dance of matter and linking all life to the cosmos. And so, when you take your next breath, imagine the atoms entering your body. Picture the carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen that have traveled across the universe, endured the formation and death of stars, and now sustain your life. They are eternal travelers, silent witnesses, and patient participants in the story of creation. You are their temporary vessel, their conscious expression, and their continuing journey through the unfolding universe. In this way, every breath, every heartbeat, every thought becomes a connection to the cosmos. The atoms that fill your body are part of an endless cycle, ancient yet ever-present, silent yet profoundly expressive. They carry the memory of stars, the echo of creation, and the potential for future transformation.
At the heart of every atom lies a nucleus, a dense core containing protons and neutrons. Protons are positively charged, each carrying a tiny spark of energy that shapes the universe in subtle but essential ways. Neutrons, neutral and steady, provide balance and stability, holding the nucleus together through forces that defy casual imagination. Orbiting this tiny core are electrons, negatively charged particles that move in invisible clouds, never still, dancing in a rhythm dictated by natural law. Though these particles are minuscule, the space they inhabit is vast in comparison. The nucleus may be smaller than a pinpoint, but the electron clouds around it extend far beyond, creating the boundaries we perceive as the atom's size. And within this delicate architecture, a silent orchestra plays. Forces attract and repel, electrons spin and leap, and the fundamental rules of physics govern every motion. Electromagnetism is one of the quietest yet most profound forces acting on atoms. It guides the electrons around the nucleus, ensures the cohesion of molecules, and allows atoms to interact in precise ways. Through electromagnetic attraction and repulsion, atoms find one another, bond, and create the first structures of matter. Without this invisible guidance, the universe would be a shapeless void, particles floating without order or purpose. Gravity, though weaker at the atomic scale, still exerts its influence, subtly nudging clusters of atoms toward one another over immense distances. And then there is the strong nuclear force, binding protons and neutrons tightly together in the nucleus, overcoming the natural repulsion of positive charges. It is a quiet strength, unseen and uncelebrated, yet essential to the existence of matter. Quantum mechanics governs the behavior of these tiny particles, a set of rules that defy human intuition, yet orchestrate the universe with perfect precision. Electrons do not orbit like planets. They exist in probabilities, in clouds of potential, appearing in some places and not others, moving in ways that seem impossible, yet follow strict rules. It is a subtle, silent logic, allowing atoms to remain stable while remaining capable of forming complex arrangements. These rules give rise to phenomena that appear magical from a human perspective. Electrons can occupy discrete energy levels, jump between them without traversing the space in between, and communicate their presence through the emission or absorption of light. This quiet interaction, invisible to the eye, forms the foundation for chemistry, biology, and even the technologies that shape our modern world. Atoms are loners and collaborators at once. A single hydrogen atom can drift through space alone for billions of years, yet when it encounters another atom, an opportunity arises. Electrons may share or exchange, forming bonds that hold matter together. These first bonds are the whispers of complexity, the subtle beginnings of molecules, the precursors to water, carbon chains, and the building blocks of life. Covalent bonds, where electrons are shared between atoms, create stability and structure. Hydrogen and oxygen combine in this way to form water molecules, the liquid medium that sustains life. Carbon, with its remarkable ability to form 4 bonds, becomes a backbone for an infinite variety of molecules, capable of creating chains, rings, and branching structures. Even these simple interactions, when multiplied across billions of atoms, generate astonishing complexity. Ions, atoms that gain or lose electrons, bring another dimension to this silent story. Sodium and chlorine, once drifting separately, may meet and transfer electrons, forming salt. The resulting ionic bonds are strong, silent agreements that hold matter together, shaping minerals, crystals, and the environment around us. These bonds, invisible yet enduring, are the grammar of the universe, instructing atoms how to interact and combine. The first molecules were humble, yet their significance cannot be overstated. Water, hydrogen peroxide, methane, ammonia. These early compounds were the foundation upon which complexity would rise. In the vast, quiet expanses of the cosmos, atoms arrange themselves according to these fundamental rules, creating islands of order in the sea of potential. Through these early molecular structures, the universe began to hint at the possibilities to come. Hydrogen and oxygen, forming water, created a medium in which chemistry could unfold with precision. Carbon chains enabled the construction of more complex molecules, introducing flexibility and adaptability. Nitrogen and sulfur, once solitary atoms, found partners and created compounds that would one day be essential for life. Even in their silence, atoms communicate. They share electrons, attract, repel, and influence one another through invisible fields. Every collision, every bond formed or broken, is part of a subtle dialogue that guides matter toward structure and stability. The universe, vast and quiet, is filled with these atomic conversations, ongoing since the dawn of time.
Imagine a water molecule, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, spinning gently in space. Its bonds hold firmly, yet the electrons are in constant motion, creating a dynamic balance. This molecule is simple, yet it is capable of participating in countless interactions, dissolving salts, transferring energy, sustaining life. Its story is modest but profound, a testament to the quiet creativity of atoms. Carbon atoms, too, exemplify the universe's silent ingenuity. Each carbon atom can form 4 bonds, allowing it to act as a versatile connector, creating chains, rings, and frameworks.
These arrangements, repeated and varied across countless molecules, formed the chemistry of life, the basis of DNA, proteins, and the myriad compounds that sustain organisms. A single carbon atom may drift for eons, yet when it encounters partners, it participates in structures of astonishing complexity. Even seemingly inert atoms contribute to this silent dance. Helium, neon, and argon do not readily bond, yet their presence influences the behavior of other atoms, shaping the environment in which reactions occur. In their quiet stability, they provide contrast and balance, allowing reactive atoms to find partners and form bonds according to the universe's subtle rules. And so the first molecules drifted through space, forming clouds of increasing complexity. In these molecular clouds, atoms were both patient and persistent, waiting for the right conditions to combine, to transform, to participate in structures that would one day enable life. Each molecule was a whisper, a promise of greater complexity, a precursor to the diversity the universe would eventually achieve. Even the simplest molecular interactions are guided by invisible forces. Electromagnetic attractions dictate how electrons are shared. Van der Waals forces influence how molecules interact, and quantum rules ensure stability and potential. These subtle influences create order from apparent randomness, allowing the universe to construct intricate patterns from the simplest building blocks. Consider, too, the vast patience required. Atoms and molecules drifted for millions or billions of years, sometimes unbonded, sometimes colliding only to separate again. They were indifferent to time, unconcerned with outcomes, yet capable of extraordinary creativity when circumstances aligned. This patience, this quiet endurance is a hallmark of the atomic world, a model of persistence for all scales of existence. In this quiet, unassuming way, the universe began to build complexity from simplicity. Single atoms became molecules. Molecules formed chains and networks. Clouds of gas and dust contained the potential for planets, oceans, and life. And through it all, the atoms themselves remained silent, participating in a dance guided by invisible laws, creating structures whose beauty and intricacy would take billions of years to fully appreciate. Even now, the molecules around us, water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and countless others, continue this legacy. They move, interact, bond, and transform, carrying forward the work of atoms that began in the first moments of the universe. Every process in the natural world, from the flow of rivers to the beating of our hearts, relies on these molecular interactions, guided by the silent rules of atomic behavior. Atoms teach us subtle lessons. They are patient, enduring, capable of forming complex structures from simple beginnings. They operate according to precise rules, yet their combinations produce infinite variety. They are both silent and expressive, humble yet fundamental, eternal yet constantly transforming. Through them, the universe constructs beauty, structure, and life itself.
The universe, now populated with atoms and simple molecules, began to compose its first quiet symphonies of chemistry. Hydrogen paired with oxygen to form water, a molecule modest in size but extraordinary in significance. Its polar nature allowed it to dissolve minerals, to carry energy, and act as a medium in which further molecular complexity could flourish. Water became both cradle and canvas, hosting subtle reactions that would unfold over eons. Carbon, with its 4 bonding sites, became the backbone of chemical creativity. Simple chains grew longer, folded into rings, and branched into networks of remarkable versatility. These early carbon structures were unremarkable in isolation, but multiplied and combined with other elements, they generated patterns of staggering potential. Nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus joined the dance, creating molecules that could store information, transfer energy, and catalyze reactions. In the early Earth, the chemistry of atoms was guided by circumstance as much as by force. Rocky surfaces, minerals, and the gentle warmth of the planet's interior offered platforms where molecules could assemble. Water, flowing over stones and pooling in shallow basins, created environments where atoms and molecules could encounter one another repeatedly, testing combinations, breaking and reforming bonds. Chemistry, in its patient way, became a silent experiment, unfolding without observation, without rush, following only the rules inherent to matter itself. The oceans, vast and teeming with dissolved minerals, became crucibles for molecular arrangement. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium ions danced in solution, influencing the ways molecules interacted. Hydrogen bonds formed and reformed, creating transient networks of water molecules that held and released energy. Carbon chains extended into new configurations, creating rudimentary precursors to more complex structures. Even the air above, filled with nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, participated in this quiet orchestration, contributing subtle chemical influences to reactions occurring at the interface of water, rock, and heat. In this way, the Earth became a laboratory without conscious oversight. Each interaction between atoms was both independent and coordinated, guided by the invisible rules of chemistry. The universe, patient and meticulous, allowed the slow accumulation of order out of randomness. Molecules that were capable of stability persisted, while unstable ones disassembled, creating opportunities for new forms to emerge. Over immense stretches of time, patterns repeated and multiplied, generating increasingly sophisticated arrangements of matter. The first organic molecules emerged from these interactions. Simple sugars, amino acids, and nucleotides formed spontaneously in environments where energy and chemical diversity were available. These molecules were humble, yet their creation marked the first whispers of biological potential. In each bond formed, in each chain extended, atoms were collaborating silently to produce structures capable of information storage, energy transfer, and catalytic action, the essential functions of life. The formation of these molecules was not random chaos, but a subtle alignment with universal rules. Water-mediated reactions, dissolving some compounds while allowing others to encounter one another repeatedly. Heat, radiation, and mineral surfaces provided energy gradients that encouraged the formation of certain structures over others. In this subtle interplay, the groundwork for life's chemical complexity was being laid. Atoms, indifferent to observation, participated in processes that would eventually culminate in organisms, ecosystems, and the chemistry of consciousness. Even inorganic chemistry contributed to this symphony. Metals such as iron, magnesium, and zinc, embedded in rocks and dissolved in water, acted as catalysts for molecular interactions. They guided reactions, stabilized structures, and enabled processes that would otherwise occur too slowly or not at all. Each atom, whether part of a molecule or an ion in solution, played a role in this intricate, silent orchestration. Hydrogen bonds provided additional subtleties. Between water molecules and within organic compounds, these weak but influential interactions directed folding, alignment, and stability. Carbon chains folded into spirals and sheets, creating structures that were energetically favorable and capable of interacting with other molecules in specific ways. In these arrangements, atoms discovered the first principles of molecular recognition, the silent rules that would guide the formation of proteins, nucleic acids, and other functional macromolecules. Over millions of years, these interactions led to increasing complexity. Small molecules linked into larger polymers. Amino acids formed chains that could fold into primitive proteins. Nucleotides connected into strands of RNA, capable of storing information and catalyzing reactions. Lipid molecules aggregated into membranes, creating compartments that separated and protected chemical reactions. These were not steps guided by intention, but by the patient rules of chemistry, allowing matter to explore the possibilities inherent in its structure. Earth's chemistry was shaped by energy in all its forms. Sunlight catalyzed reactions on the surface, driving photochemical processes that produced reactive species. Heat from the planet's interior facilitated molecular motion and bonding. Radiation from space introduced variations that tested the stability of structures, leading to natural selection at the atomic level. In this subtle crucible, atoms were silent artisans producing increasingly complex forms over vast timescales.
Water, the medium for most reactions, displayed properties that were both simple and extraordinary. Its ability to dissolve a wide variety of compounds allowed ions and molecules to interact freely. Its thermal capacity moderated temperature fluctuations, providing stability for chemical reactions. Its polarity created microenvironments in which molecules could arrange themselves in patterns favorable for further complexity. In these ways, water itself was a partner in the silent work of atoms, shaping the trajectory of chemistry on the young planet. Carbon chains, meanwhile, demonstrated remarkable versatility. Simple hydrocarbons could extend into chains or fold into rings. When combined with nitrogen, oxygen, and other atoms, they formed molecules capable of energy storage, catalysis, and information encoding. These molecules remained small and humble at first, yet their combinations contained the potential for immense diversity. Through countless interactions, failures, and reformations, they explored configurations that would later serve as the foundations of life. Minerals and surfaces provided additional structure to this process. Clays, iron-sulfur compounds, and other substrates offered sites where molecules could assemble, interact, and stabilize. These surfaces sometimes oriented molecules in ways that encouraged bond formation or catalyzed reactions that would otherwise be improbable. In this manner, Earth's geology contributed directly to chemistry, providing scaffolds for the silent work of atoms. Over immense stretches of time, these molecular interactions led to networks of increasing complexity. Simple molecules combined into polymers, polymers into systems, and systems into structures capable of self-organization. Even without life, atoms and molecules displayed a capacity for pattern and function. They responded to their environment, adjusted to energy gradients, and formed structures that persisted when energetically favorable. In this way, the silent life of atoms produced a prelude to biology. Even as molecules combined and recombined, they followed subtle rules. Stability dictated survival. Instability ensured turnover. Interactions were guided by electrostatic forces, hydrogen bonds, van der Waals forces, and covalent connections. Quantum rules determined orbital overlaps, energy levels, and bond strengths. Each factor, though invisible, influenced outcomes, directing the emergence of complexity without conscious intent. The oceans themselves became a vast stage for these chemical processes. Dissolved minerals, fluctuating temperatures, and dynamic currents provided conditions for molecules to encounter one another repeatedly. Small energy differences determined which reactions prevailed. Molecules that could replicate interactions, stabilize bonds, or catalyze further reactions persisted. Those that could not eventually disassembled, returning atoms to the cycle to try again. Through this slow process, chemical diversity flourished. Amino acids, nucleotides, sugars, and lipids multiplied and arranged into larger structures. Compounds that could interact synergistically persisted, creating networks capable of simple chemical feedback. Membranes formed, enclosing reactions and providing compartments. These early chemical systems, though not alive, displayed properties that would later be essential for life. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, the primary elements of life, worked in silent concert. Each atom adhered to its properties, followed its rules, and responded to interactions. Through repetition, feedback, and environmental constraints, complexity accumulated. Over time, the combination of water, carbon chains, and other elements created a chemical symphony of unprecedented subtlety and organization. Atoms, through their silent interactions, had transformed the young Earth into a laboratory of potential. Energy flowed, molecules combined, reactions cycled, and structures persisted long enough to influence future outcomes. The planet itself became a participant, shaping and mediating chemical possibilities. Over millions of years, these processes laid the foundation for the emergence of life, a natural outcome of the patient work of matter. The silent symphony of atoms on Earth illustrates a profound principle. Complexity arises from simple rules and persistent interaction. Atoms need no consciousness to create order. They require only time, energy, and the ability to interact according to their properties. From this simplicity, life, ecosystems, and eventually consciousness would emerge following the blueprint quietly etched by atomic behavior. The chemistry of Earth was not static. Volcanoes emitted gases, winds circulated molecules through the atmosphere, and the tides moved compounds across surfaces. Energy flowed in cycles, driving reactions that created chemical gradients, sustained interactions, and enabled the persistence of favorable structures. In every interaction, atoms performed their silent work, creating patterns that would endure and evolve. The early oceans were alive with chemical potential. Molecules encountered each other countless times, forming and breaking bonds, testing stability, and discovering new arrangements. Water mediated these interactions, ions and minerals guided them, and the subtle forces of electromagnetism and quantum mechanics orchestrated the results. Over time, patterns emerged, setting the stage for the origin of biological systems.
The molecules of early Earth, arranged and rearranged by patient chemical processes, eventually reached a point of astonishing subtlety. Chains of carbon, interwoven with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, began to form structures capable of storing information. These molecules were no longer inert. They possessed the potential for replication, catalysis, and the emergence of self-sustaining networks. In quiet laboratories of oceans and mineral-rich pools, life began to take its first breath, not as a sudden event, but as a gradual, patient accumulation of structure and possibility. RNA molecules, simple yet powerful, served as both templates and catalysts. Their sequences could replicate under the right conditions, and slight variations produced different behaviors. Through countless cycles, molecules that could reproduce more efficiently or catalyze favorable reactions persisted, while less effective arrangements dissolved back into simpler forms. In this molecular evolution, atoms played their silent, enduring role, enabling patterns to persist, interact, and create ever greater complexity. Proteins, formed from chains of amino acids, began to fold into intricate three-dimensional structures. Their shapes determined function, allowing them to catalyze reactions, transport molecules, and provide structural support within protocells. Each bond, each folded loop, depended on the precise arrangement of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen atoms. In their silent precision, atoms dictated the architecture of life, providing the scaffolding upon which biological function emerged. Lipids self-assembled into membranes, enclosing collections of molecules and creating compartments. These membranes allowed chemical reactions to occur in controlled spaces, giving rise to the first protocells. Within these compartments, molecules could interact more efficiently, exchange energy, and undergo replication cycles. The atoms within these structures remained constant, yet their arrangements created dynamic systems capable of sustaining and propagating themselves. Oxygen, though abundant in Earth's atmosphere only later in history, played a crucial role in early metabolic processes. Hydrogen, bonded within water and organic molecules, participated in energy transfers essential for life. Carbon, versatile and central, formed the backbones of complex molecules, enabling storage of information and structural diversity. Nitrogen, incorporated into amino acids and nucleotides, provided the chemical versatility necessary for catalysis and coding. Together, these elements formed the core machinery of life, their silent interactions shaping every cell, tissue, and organism that would follow. The first cells were simple, yet they represented an extraordinary leap in organization. Within these microscopic vessels, molecules were no longer free-floating, but coordinated. Metabolic networks emerged, transferring energy from one molecule to another, breaking down some compounds and synthesizing others. The atoms themselves, unchanged but rearranged, facilitated these processes, carrying electrons, forming bonds, and maintaining the structural integrity of macromolecules. DNA emerged as the primary information carrier, a polymer capable of storing sequences of instructions in the order of its bases. Hydrogen bonds connected complementary strands, while the sugar-phosphate backbone provided stability. The sequence of nucleotides encoded potential actions, from enzymatic catalysis to structural assembly. Atoms in DNA did not know their purpose, yet their arrangement created a system capable of directing life with astonishing precision. Proteins translated the information of DNA into function. Ribosomes, themselves complex assemblies of atoms and molecules, read nucleotide sequences and assembled amino acids into specific chains. Each atom within an amino acid contributed to folding, stability, and chemical reactivity. These silent, precise contributions allowed proteins to perform catalytic, structural, and signaling functions essential for living systems.
The intimate dance of atoms extended beyond individual molecules. Within cells, ions moved across membranes, establishing gradients that stored energy. Electrons passed along chains of proteins, releasing energy that powered molecular machinery. Hydrogen ions, sodium, potassium, calcium, each contributed to the orchestration of cellular function, their motions governed by physical laws, yet producing effects of staggering complexity. Water molecules continued to mediate these interactions. Their polarity allowed them to solvate ions and molecules, stabilize structures, and facilitate reactions. Through hydrogen bonding, they influenced the folding of proteins and the formation of nucleic acid structures. In this way, the silent life of atoms and molecules continued, providing a medium in which biological order could emerge and persist. The organization of atoms within cells extended to structures visible under microscopes. Cytoskeletons, composed of protein filaments, provided mechanical support. Membrane proteins regulated transport and signaling. Molecular motors, powered by ATP and electron flow, enabled movement and transport at microscopic scales. In every instance, the precise arrangement of atoms dictated function, allowing life to operate with a level of sophistication far beyond the sum of its individual parts. Even genetic mutations, which allowed evolution to occur, depended on atomic interactions. A single base change could alter hydrogen bonding patterns, modify protein folding, or influence enzymatic activity. These changes, though minute at the scale of individual atoms, had the potential to affect entire organisms over generations. The silent life of atoms, in its precision and constancy, made both stability and change possible. Metabolism, the continuous flow of chemical reactions within cells, was orchestrated by atoms in constant motion. Electrons transferred between molecules, energy gradients were established and exploited, and reactions proceeded in specific sequences. Each atom participated according to its properties, constrained by physical laws, yet producing outcomes of remarkable specificity. Through this molecular choreography, cells maintained order, adapted to changes, and propagated life. The evolution from simple molecules to fully functioning cells illustrates a principle repeated throughout the universe. Complexity emerges from the patient, repeated interactions of simple components. Atoms themselves are unchanged in these processes, yet their arrangements create systems capable of information storage, energy transformation, and self-replication. Through their silent work, life became possible, structured, and sustainable. Even the diversity of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, depends on subtle atomic properties. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen arrange themselves to produce side chains with varying polarity, charge, and reactivity. These differences enable proteins to fold in precise ways, interact with other molecules, and perform catalytic functions. In this, atoms provide both limitation and possibility, shaping the palette from which biology paints its structures. Lipids, too, demonstrate the elegance of atomic organization. Hydrophilic and hydrophobic regions arise naturally from the properties of atoms and bonds. When placed in water, these molecules spontaneously form bilayers, creating compartments that separate environments, concentrate reactants, and allow reactions to occur efficiently. Atoms, in their properties and arrangements, produce structures that are both simple and extraordinary, laying the groundwork for membranes, organelles, and cellular compartments. Through these processes, the first microorganisms appeared. Bacteria and archaea, composed entirely of atoms arranged into macromolecules, thrived in diverse environments. Their metabolic pathways depended on electron transfer, proton gradients, and enzyme catalysis, all governed by the silent, precise behavior of atoms. Life in these early forms was both humble and profound, demonstrating the power of atomic organization on a planetary scale. Over millions of years, these cellular systems evolved, diversified, and interacted. Metabolic networks became more complex, cellular compartments specialized, and multicellularity eventually emerged. At every step, atoms continued their quiet work, forming the bonds, transferring electrons, and maintaining structures necessary for life. Without their constancy and precision, none of this complexity would have been possible. The interplay of atoms in living systems illustrates a deep truth. Life is chemistry in motion. Hydrogen bonds, covalent bonds, ionic interactions, and van der Waals forces combine to create molecules capable of function, replication, and adaptation. Water mediates these interactions. Energy flows drive them, and the rules of physics constrain and enable their possibilities. From these silent interactions, life arises, sustained by the patient, persistent work of atoms.
As life evolved, cells combined and specialized, forming tissues, organs, and ultimately nervous systems capable of processing information. Within the complex networks of neurons, atoms orchestrated movements, energy transfers, and chemical signals with extraordinary precision. Sodium, potassium, calcium, and chloride ions passed across membranes in highly controlled sequences, generating electrical impulses that could travel meters, carrying information in bursts of energy and potential. Neurotransmitters, themselves assemblies of atoms, bridged the microscopic gaps between neurons, translating electrical signals into chemical messages. Hydrogen bonds, covalent structures, and electrostatic interactions allowed these molecules to bind to receptors with specificity. Each atomic interaction contributed to the timing, fidelity, and regulation of neural communication, transforming silent matter into coordinated patterns that could encode perception, emotion, and thought. Proteins embedded in cell membranes formed by precise arrangement of atoms acted as channels, pumps, and sensors. They determined the flow of ions, regulated energy gradients, and facilitated interactions essential for life's electrical and chemical signaling. The atoms within these proteins moved subtly, oscillating in response to energy differences, enabling processes that scale from molecular dimensions to whole brain activity. Even consciousness, the emergence of awareness and the capacity for thought, rests on the silent activity of atoms. Neuronal networks, complex and dynamic, rely on atomic arrangements and electron movements. Synaptic vesicles release molecules in precise quantities. Ions flow in patterned sequences. Electrons shift across molecules to carry energy. Every action, perception, or memory traces back to these fundamental atomic behaviors. Silent, invisible, yet essential, atoms are the architects of awareness. Oxygen atoms, drawn into cellular respiration, accept electrons in mitochondria, powering the production of ATP, the universal energy currency of cells. Carbon atoms, forming the backbone of proteins, sugars, and lipids, dictate the shapes and chemical potentials of the molecules that sustain neuroactivity. Hydrogen and nitrogen enable the formation of hydrogen bonds, critical for molecular recognition, folding, and signaling. Without these atomic players, the orchestra of life, and particularly the symphony of the brain, would not exist. From the first simple cells to complex neural networks, atoms remain unchanged in identity, but versatile in function. The same atoms that formed water in primordial oceans, that stabilized carbon chains in prebiotic chemistry, and that cycled through ancient stars, now participate in cognition, perception, and awareness. They are eternal participants in an ongoing narrative of transformation and complexity. Thought itself is a choreography of electrons and atoms. Electrical potentials arise from differences in ion concentrations across membranes, creating fields that propagate signals. Electrons move within molecular orbitals. Energy is transferred along chains of molecules, and chemical gradients guide the direction of impulses. The motion of atoms and subatomic particles generates macroscopic effects, perception, decision, memory, transforming silent matter into the phenomena of consciousness. Neurons communicate across synapses with exquisite timing. Neurotransmitters, tiny molecules composed of atoms in precise arrangements, diffuse, bind, and release, enabling signals to be transmitted across microscopic gaps. The hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen within these molecules do not act with intention, yet collectively their behavior produces highly specific, regulated outcomes that allow organisms to perceive, respond, and adapt. Even emotions encoded in neurochemical pathways depend on the interactions of atoms. Dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, and other molecules transmit signals in ways dictated by atomic structure and bonding. Their efficacy, duration, and specificity all emerge from subtle atomic properties, illustrating how the silent life of atoms underpins the most intimate aspects of experience. Memory, too, is a manifestation of atomic precision. Synaptic connections strengthen or weaken through changes in molecular arrangements, ion channel activity, and protein modifications. Each structural adjustment relies on the arrangement of atoms, their bonds, and their energy states. Through these microscopic adjustments, information is encoded, stored, and retrieved, all enabled by the silent, consistent work of matter.
Atoms, once forged in distant stars, continue to participate in this emergent property called consciousness. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, shaped in stellar furnaces, cycled through oceans, rocks, and ancient organisms before assembling into the molecules of life. Now within neurons and tissues, they facilitate processes that produce thoughts, perceptions, and feelings. Their journey spans eons, yet they remain essential and functional in every living system. Even the DNA in neural cells relies on the stability and interactions of atoms. The hydrogen bonds between nucleotide bases preserve genetic information, guiding protein synthesis, development, and repair. Carbon and nitrogen atoms in the bases maintain proper geometry, while phosphorus and oxygen in the backbone stabilize the structure. Each atom contributes to the preservation and expression of genetic instructions, supporting life and consciousness over time. Beyond individual organisms, atoms continue their cycles across ecosystems. Nitrogen and carbon atoms move through food webs. Oxygen participates in respiration, and hydrogen flows through water and organic molecules. In this way, the same atoms that form conscious brains in humans are also present in plants, microorganisms, and other animals. The silent life of atoms ensures continuity, connectivity, and the propagation of matter through multiple layers of biological complexity. The paradox emerges clearly. Atoms, silent and oblivious to purpose, combine to form systems capable of intention, reflection, and creativity. Simple physical laws guide electrons and nuclei, yet through countless interactions and arrangements, matter produces phenomena that appear profoundly alive. Consciousness, perception, and thought emerge not from individual atoms, but from their intricate, coordinated interplay, a testament to the transformative power of structure, arrangement, and persistent interaction. Even the molecules that carry electrical signals in the brain, neurotransmitters, ion channels, and ATP, are assembled from the same atoms that existed long before Earth formed. Their effectiveness relies entirely on the precise positions of electrons and nuclei, the subtle balancing of forces, and the probabilistic behaviors inherent in quantum mechanics. Each reaction, each movement, each potential shift is both deterministic and probabilistic, following rules that are silent yet foundational. Mitochondria, the powerhouses of cells, provide energy through electron transport chains. These chains rely on electrons moving between molecules in sequences dictated by atomic properties and quantum energy levels. Protons are pumped across membranes, creating gradients that store energy. Atoms participate in this flow of energy, facilitating life-sustaining chemical reactions that underpin every cellular function. Without this atomic precision, metabolism, neural activity, and life itself would collapse. The cycles of atoms in the biosphere illustrate an enduring principle. Nothing is wasted, nothing disappears. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur traverse ecosystems, oceans, atmospheres, and organisms repeatedly. The atoms within neurons today may have passed through dinosaurs, ancient forests, or stars long extinguished. Their continuity ensures both stability of matter and the emergence of increasingly complex systems, including consciousness. Even at the level of thought and perception, the influence of atomic history persists. Iron in hemoglobin, calcium in neurons, phosphorus in nucleic acids, and other atoms carry a legacy that spans cosmic and terrestrial time. Their properties, interactions, and arrangements enable processes that culminate in awareness, sensation, and cognition. Silent and timeless, atoms are both the medium and the enablers of life's most subtle phenomena. Electrons, ever in motion, create currents, fields, and energy transfers that ripple through molecular networks. Their behavior, probabilistic and constrained, allows atoms to bond, molecules to form, and cells to function. The entire edifice of neural activity, perception, thought, and emotion relies on these microcosmic movements. In this way, the silent life of atoms bridges scales, connecting subatomic motion to conscious experience. From stars to oceans, from simple molecules to complex brains, the journey of atoms demonstrates continuity and transformation. They endure, they participate, and they enable phenomena that extend far beyond their individual properties. In living beings, these atoms become part of a larger narrative, constructing structures that can reflect, adapt, and interact with the world. Life, consciousness, and thought are therefore emergent properties of atomic interactions, guided by physical laws, yet capable of remarkable outcomes. The silent life of atoms, indifferent to experience, yet essential to it, underpins everything from metabolism to memory, from perception to imagination. Across time and space, the same atoms recycle endlessly. Carbon from ancient stars becomes part of DNA. Oxygen from primordial oceans enters cells. Hydrogen that once drifted through space stabilizes molecules in the brain. Nitrogen that powered ancient reactions now resides in amino acids. Through these cycles, the universe maintains continuity while enabling change, persistence while allowing innovation. Even the atoms forming the most complex brains are bound by the same rules as those that formed early molecules in the oceans. Their behavior is constrained, predictable, and silent, yet their combinations produce phenomena that seem irreducibly complex. Life, consciousness, and thought emerge from the patient, repeated interactions of these fundamental components, illustrating the transformative power of structure and arrangement. Atoms, silent and timeless, remain at the foundation of all biological systems. From the first protocells to multicellular organisms, from simple metabolic networks to complex brains, their interactions create patterns that sustain life and enable cognition. Their constancy allows for continuity, while their combinatorial potential enables diversity and innovation. In every organism, in every neuron, in every molecule, the silent life of atoms persists. They link us to the distant past, to stars long gone, to oceans ancient and enduring, and to the infinite possibilities of matter. Their journey, patient and persistent, enables the emergence of complexity, the evolution of life, and the phenomena we recognize as consciousness.
The atoms that formed life on Earth have never ceased their journey. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, forged in stars and recycled through oceans, rocks, and organisms, now participate in structures both natural and artificial. Civilization, in its countless forms, is built upon the work of atoms that have endured for billions of years, combining in ways both deliberate and incidental, forming materials, tools, and technologies that extend human influence across the planet. Among these, silicon occupies a special place. Found abundantly in the Earth's crust, it is both humble and essential. In sand, quartz, and silicates, silicon atoms combine with oxygen to form rigid, durable frameworks. For millennia, humans used these materials for tools, construction, and pottery, unaware that within their crystalline structures, atoms performed their silent, enduring labor. The durability and versatility of silicon made it a cornerstone of technological progress. Over time, humans began to manipulate materials at increasingly precise scales. Metals like copper, iron, and aluminum, composed of densely packed atoms, were smelted, shaped, and alloyed to create tools, structures, and machines. Bronze and Iron Ages emerged, marking periods when the arrangement of atoms into specific alloys enabled societal transformation. Each innovation, from plowshares to swords, depended on the predictable behaviors of atoms under heat, pressure, and chemical reaction. Glass, another manifestation of silicon's potential, provided transparency and stability, allowing civilizations to record knowledge, protect food, and build structures that interacted with light. The alignment and bonding of silicon and oxygen atoms created materials that could endure, refract, and transmit energy. These silent atomic arrangements enabled humans to observe, store, and manipulate the world in ways previously impossible. As civilizations advanced, atoms became not only materials, but also carriers of energy and information. Coal, composed largely of carbon atoms arranged over millions of years, fueled engines and fires. Oil, formed from the compressed remains of ancient organisms, released energy stored in atomic bonds, powering industry and transportation. The precise behavior of atoms in combustion reactions enabled technologies that reshaped human society. In the industrial age, the manipulation of atoms reached unprecedented precision. Chemistry became both science and industry, transforming raw materials into medicines, plastics, dyes, and alloys. Atoms were arranged, separated, and recombined according to human intention, yet they continued to follow the immutable laws of physics. Predictable, consistent, and reliable, their behavior enabled humanity to extend influence over nature itself. In the 20th century, the atomic story entered an even more extraordinary phase. The invention of semiconductors, devices that rely on the behavior of electrons within atomic lattices, paved the way for computing, communication, and digital technology. Silicon, purified and structured into crystalline wafers, became the foundation of microchips. Its atoms, organized precisely, allowed electrons to flow in controlled pathways, enabling calculations, storage, and logic operations. In these chips, the silent life of atoms produced effects that now influence every aspect of modern life. Atoms became the conduits of information. Electrons moved through circuits, carrying bits of data, while silicon lattices guided and constrained their paths. The reliability and predictability of atomic arrangements allowed for the construction of complex machines capable of processing, storing, and transmitting vast quantities of information. Civilization increasingly relied not only on the bulk properties of materials, but also on the precise arrangement of atoms within them. Beyond silicon, other atoms contribute silently to technology. Aluminum, copper, gold, and rare earth elements participate in circuits, magnets, and batteries. Lithium ions shuttle through electrodes in rechargeable cells, enabling portable energy storage. Each atom contributes according to its properties, participating in energy transfer, structural support, and conductivity. The behaviors of these atoms, governed by the same forces that guided molecular evolution and biological function, now underpin the modern digital world.
Even the humble act of writing or printing relies on atoms. Ink pigments, composed of molecules arranged from carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and other elements, interact with paper fibers, themselves structured from cellulose atoms, to form symbols. These symbols encode information, enabling communication across space and time. The silent life of atoms, persistent and precise, makes possible the transmission of knowledge, ideas, and culture. Architecture, too, depends on atomic precision. Concrete, steel, brick, and glass are all arrangements of atoms forming stable, durable structures. The crystalline and amorphous arrangements within these materials determine strength, flexibility, and longevity. In cathedrals, skyscrapers, and bridges, the collective behavior of trillions of atoms provides the framework for human ambition and expression. Even food, the sustenance of civilizations, depends on atomic orchestration. Photosynthesis rearranges carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen into sugars and starches. Proteins are built from nitrogen-containing amino acids. Minerals like iron, magnesium, and calcium enter food chains, supporting biological function. Through agriculture, humans have manipulated atomic arrangements indirectly, selecting plants and animals that concentrate particular atoms, creating stable sources of nutrition. Medicine represents another frontier where atoms dictate outcomes. Molecular design, drug formulation, and delivery systems rely on understanding atomic interactions. Enzymes, receptors, and cellular structures are influenced by the precise arrangements of atoms in therapeutic molecules. Vaccines, antibiotics, and medications exploit atomic properties to restore balance, fight disease, and prolong life. The silent precision of atoms enables the highest expressions of human ingenuity and care. The journey of atoms through human civilization demonstrates continuity and adaptation. Atoms that once drifted in stardust, formed simple molecules, and participated in the origin of life now underpin technology, infrastructure, and culture. Their properties remain constant, yet the arrangements humans create allow for emergent behaviors, machines, communication networks, and energy systems that extend the influence of matter far beyond natural processes. Silicon's role exemplifies this duality. In sand, its atoms provide durability. In microchips, their precision enables logic and computation. In both forms, the same atoms follow immutable rules, yet their applications differ dramatically. Human ingenuity leverages these silent participants, arranging them to serve new purposes while remaining constrained by fundamental physics. Energy, too, depends on atomic behavior. Combustion, electrical currents, nuclear reactions, each relies on the predictable interactions of electrons, protons, and nuclei. Atoms store,
transfer, and release energy in patterns that humans exploit to move machines, illuminate cities, and power devices. The silent life of atoms underpins both natural and technological energy cycles. The construction of civilizations, from tools to skyscrapers, relies on the properties of atoms and their combinations. Metals, ceramics, polymers, and semiconductors all depend on atomic arrangement, bonding, and electron behavior. Through these materials, humans extend influence, record knowledge, manipulate energy, and communicate across distances. The journey of atoms, patient and persistent, underlies the infrastructure of civilization itself. Even in art, the silent life of atoms manifests. Pigments, ceramics, metals, and glass are arranged into visual, tactile, and structural forms. The colors, textures, and durability of artistic creations rely on atomic composition and bonding. In every sculpture, painting, and architectural marvel, atoms perform their silent work, enabling expression, memory, and cultural continuity. Atoms continue to cycle through natural and human systems alike. Carbon atoms from ancient organisms become fuels, plastics, or building materials. Oxygen atoms cycle through atmosphere, water, and cells. Silicon atoms move from sand to microchips to glass, enabling observation, calculation, and communication. Their persistence and adaptability link the natural world with human ingenuity, connecting past, present, and future in continuous transformation. Technologies like computers, solar cells, and medical imaging devices exploit the predictable behaviors of electrons, protons, and nuclei. Atomic arrangements determine conductivity, energy storage, and chemical reactivity. Human civilization, in harnessing these properties, has amplified the reach of atomic activity, transforming silent participants into agents of innovation and functionality. Even the development of materials for space exploration relies on atomic precision. Aluminum alloys, titanium composites, and synthetic polymers are designed at the atomic and molecular scale to withstand extreme conditions. Spacecraft, satellites, and probes carry these atoms far from Earth, expending their journey across the solar system and beyond. Atoms that once drifted in stardust now participate in human exploration, linking cosmic origins to technological endeavor. Civilizations have increasingly learned to manipulate atoms intentionally. Nanotechnology arranges atoms into structures with unprecedented precision, controlling chemical reactivity, optical properties, and mechanical strength. Quantum computing relies on the superposition and entanglement of electrons, manipulating atomic-scale phenomena to perform computations impossible with classical devices. Atoms, silent and timeless, become instruments of human ingenuity on scales both infinitesimal and vast. Even everyday technology, smartphones, batteries, and circuits, depends on atomic precision. Lithium ions move predictably within electrodes. Silicon atoms guide electrons through circuits. Metal atoms provide conductive pathways. The reliability of devices depends entirely on the consistent behavior of atoms, illustrating how civilization relies not only on bulk materials, but on atomic properties and arrangements. Throughout history, atoms have been the silent enablers of human progress. From stone tools to bronze weapons, from glass lenses to microchips, from organic dyes to pharmaceuticals, the same fundamental particles continued to participate in processes that define civilization. Their constancy provides a framework upon which humans innovate, creating complexity that extends far beyond the behavior of individual atoms. In this way, the journey of atoms is continuous and unbroken. Stardust, molecules, cells, organisms, and civilizations all represent stages in the same long narrative. Atoms move, bond, transform, and endure, linking the cosmos with life, and life with human ingenuity. Their silent persistence enables both natural and artificial complexity, ensuring that the history of matter is inseparable from the history of civilization.
Atoms, having traversed cosmic, planetary, and biological histories, continue their journeys through time and matter. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and other essential elements move effortlessly through cycles of transformation. The carbon atom that once glowed within a star may have cooled in a planet's crust, fueled a living organism, then inhaled and exhaled countless times, and now resides within the synthetic polymers of human technology. The journey of atoms is eternal, uninterrupted, and universal. In the natural world, cycles ensure their persistence. Water evaporates, condenses, and falls again, carrying hydrogen and oxygen atoms across oceans, land, and atmosphere. Carbon cycles through photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and fossilization. Nitrogen passes through air, soil, plants, and living creatures, continuously participating in the chemical and biological rhythms of Earth. Even seemingly inert atoms, like silicon in sand or quartz, endure geological and chemical transformation over millennia, silently shaping both landscapes and technologies. Human activity has accelerated and redirected some of these cycles. Metals are extracted, refined, and deployed in infrastructure and electronics. Fossil fuels release carbon stored over millions of years, integrating ancient atoms into modern energy systems. Synthetic molecules enter ecosystems, participating in new chemical reactions and spreading through air, water, and soil. Despite these changes, the fundamental principle remains. Atoms are transformed, not destroyed. Their unbroken continuity allows both natural and artificial processes to coexist within a shared atomic framework. Energy transformations further illustrate the enduring role of atoms. In chemical reactions, electrons shift between atoms, storing or releasing energy. Nuclear reactions, whether naturally occurring in stars or artificially achieved in reactors, alter nuclei but conserve fundamental particles, releasing immense energy in the process. The principles governing these behaviors, quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, and thermodynamics, are immutable, ensuring that atoms remain faithful to their properties, even as they participate in new configurations. Fusion energy represents a profound future for atomic utilization. By merging atomic nuclei under extreme temperature and pressure, immense energy can be released. The hydrogen atom, ubiquitous throughout the cosmos, becomes a medium for harnessing stellar processes on Earth. If controlled, this form of energy promises abundance with minimal environmental impact, demonstrating the potential of understanding and directing atomic behavior for civilization's benefit. Nanotechnology offers another frontier. At this scale, individual atoms are manipulated to form structures with precise chemical, optical, or mechanical properties. Carbon atoms arranged into graphene or silicon atoms into nanowires create materials with extraordinary strength, conductivity, or reactivity. Each atom participates predictably, yet the collective arrangements produce properties that surpass simple combinations. Nanotechnology transforms the silent life of atoms into deliberate functional systems capable of solving challenges in medicine, energy, computing, and material science. Quantum computing illustrates the profound potential of atomic and subatomic behavior. Electrons, qubits, and atomic-scale systems exploit superposition, entanglement, and interference to perform computations that classical machines cannot achieve. The properties of individual atoms, their electrons and nuclei, are leveraged to store, process, and transmit information. In this domain, the precision of atomic behavior becomes both tool and medium, enabling technologies that extend the influence of matter far beyond its ordinary macroscopic capabilities. Atoms continue to connect humanity to the cosmos. The iron in blood, the calcium in bones, the silicon in microchips, all originated in ancient stellar processes. They link human civilization to stars long extinguished, to the forces that shaped galaxies, and to the primordial elements forged at the dawn of time. In this sense, atomic continuity is not merely scientific, it is the foundation of cosmic and human history. Even as technology advances, the cycles of atoms remain fundamental. Energy stored in atomic bonds is released, transformed, and redistributed. Molecules recombine, elements migrate through natural and artificial processes, and new materials are synthesized. The silent precision of atoms ensures the stability and predictability necessary for both life and civilization. Human ingenuity harnesses this constancy, yet does not alter the fundamental nature of atoms themselves. In material science, the atomic framework provides both opportunity and constraint. Metals, ceramics, polymers, and composites all rely on the predictable arrangements of atoms. Their electrical, thermal, and mechanical properties emerge from atomic geometry, bonding, and interactions. Engineers and scientists manipulate these properties, designing new materials and devices, yet the atoms themselves remain faithful to the immutable principles of physics. Medicine continues to exploit atomic precision. Drugs are designed to interact with molecules at atomic scales. Proteins and enzymes are targeted with atomic-level specificity. And diagnostics probe tissues with instruments reliant on atomic and molecular properties. Each intervention relies on understanding the behavior of atoms and electrons, demonstrating how the silent life of atoms underpins human health, longevity, and capability. Energy storage and conversion further exemplify atomic orchestration. Batteries rely on ions moving predictably through electrolytes, flowing from one atomic structure to another, releasing energy to perform work. Solar cells convert photon energy into electron movement, guided by atomic arrangements within semiconductors. Fuel cells, capacitors, and other devices all depend on atomic behavior to enable technology that powers modern civilization. Civilizations also rely on atoms to encode, store, and transmit information. Magnetic materials, silicon chips, optical media, and even printed symbols exploit atomic properties to preserve knowledge. The silent life of atoms ensures reliability and persistence, enabling information to survive across generations and enabling the cumulative progress of culture, science, and technology. As society looks toward the future, atoms will remain central. Fusion reactors may provide abundant clean energy. Nanostructured materials may revolutionize medicine, manufacturing, and construction. Quantum systems may transform computation, communication, and understanding of matter itself. In all these advances, the properties of atoms, their bonds, orbitals, and interactions will dictate what is possible, guiding progress along predictable yet extraordinary paths. The cycle of atoms also illustrates resilience. Life and technology may rise and fall, but atoms persist, ready to participate in new configurations. Silicon, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen continue to form structures, store energy, and transmit information. Metals and minerals participate in countless reactions and assemblies. Even waste, once dispersed, eventually re-enters cycles of transformation. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed.
Civilization's manipulation of atoms represents both continuity and novelty. Atoms remain constant, but human ingenuity arranges them into forms that produce unprecedented functionality. Microchips, batteries, medical devices, and nanostructures demonstrate that while the silent life of atoms follows immutable laws, their collective arrangements allow for creativity, adaptation, and problem-solving at scales unimaginable to earlier generations. Education, art, and science are all enabled by atomic behavior. The pigments in ink, the fibers in paper, the silicon in screens, the metals in tools, all rely on precise atomic arrangements. Through these materials, humans communicate, learn, and create. The silent life of atoms, constant and precise, becomes the medium for cultural and intellectual evolution. Even as technology becomes increasingly abstract, atoms remain the foundation. Electrons moving through circuits, photons interacting with semiconductors, and ions flowing through batteries all depend on atomic behavior. The principles discovered and exploited by scientists and engineers are not arbitrary. They emerge from the silent consistency of atoms over billions of years. In the coming centuries, atoms may be arranged with ever greater precision. Nanomachines, molecular assemblers, and quantum systems will operate at scales where individual atomic behaviors determine macroscopic outcomes. Civilization will increasingly harness the silent life of atoms not just for energy or computation, but for medicine, exploration, and creative expression. The possibilities remain vast, limited only by imagination and understanding of atomic principles. Through this perspective, human progress can be seen as an extension of atomic history, from stars to oceans, from molecules to cells, from civilizations to technology. The continuity of atoms allows complexity, adaptation, and innovation. Each atom participates in multiple stages of transformation, linking cosmic origins to contemporary achievement. The journey of atoms demonstrates a profound principle. Matter is eternal, changeable, and capable of producing complexity far beyond its individual components. Atoms do not perish. They move, bond, release energy, and rearrange. Civilizations, life, and technology are temporary manifestations of their enduring behavior, illustrating the silent, persistent influence of matter across scales of space and time. And now, as this story of atoms reaches its close, it is fitting to reflect on the continuity and wonder of matter. From the cosmic dust of stars to the microchips of modern technology, from primordial oceans to conscious brains, atoms endure. They enable life, innovation, culture, and knowledge. Their silent work is the foundation of existence, the medium through which both natural and human histories unfold. And so, the atoms continue their journey, unchanged, yet always transforming. From the fire of ancient stars to the spark of thought in your mind tonight, they remind us of something eternal. Nothing is ever truly lost, only reshaped. You are part of this endless story, carried by atoms that have traveled through time itself. If this journey moved you, help us share it with others. Like this video, subscribe for more stories, and leave a comment below. After all, every voice, like every atom, adds its own weight to the universe.